where the Batman, Matt Reeves, man, what a fun 3 hours that was on my Saturday morning.
Let's go, baby.
Fighting off a bladder that decided to kick in about an hour into the movie. So just an hour and hour 56 of deciding, is there a good moment to go pee? There really wasn't. I just found this to be such a surprise because I felt a little Batmaned out. The Joker came on my TV the other day, right? And I was watching it, and I was
2019's
like,
Joker.
do I really want more Batman? You know, I didn't. I thought Affleck was okay as Batman, but I was like, we didn't get a Batman movie from him. He kind of was the star of Justice League, so yeah, I guess that kind of counts.
He's basically the star
movie.
of Batman vs Superman,
True.
co-star.
And so I was like, okay, I'm not totally in on it. Still love the Dark Knight trilogy. So I was like, well, do we really need this? And man, I just came out so pleasantly surprised. And
it's a need.
Loved it. So you were pumped for this, right?
Yeah, I was pumped for this. DC has been doing this for a while now, right? Not everything has to be super connected. We will make stuff that is connected, make stuff that isn't connected. We might have multiple Batmans. We might have multiple Jokers. We're just going to take pitches and just try and make good work. And, once the Snyderverse for good and bad fell off, I think it was a smart pivot. And, I think we're seeing it largely work out. DC's been doing good. And following Joker, I actually had a lot of belief that's like, oh, what they're saying about the Matt Reeves Batman movie could be real. That like this is a gritty, dark detective Batman. It's like, oh, you know what? Maybe I should believe him. And then you get that first trailer in 2020 at DC Fandom, and you're like, holy shit, that's definitely what it looks like, And once you watch it, like I was just quite impressed because I think it's really pushing to the limit what you can try and achieve in these, superhero IP films. Like the ambition of the film is so high, and much like how Joker was so clearly inspired by Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, and you also see it in the production design, like production that's clearly trying to invoke like 70s New York City. The Batman's the same way, and along the way you're also invoking like Humphrey Bogart, like noir detective movies. Like it's actually there, and I find it just really thrilling. And on top of that, like Batman is the most popular DC character, so just to see him done well, done in such a gritty, grimy fashion like this, I just had an absolute blast with it.
Yeah, Batman is the most popular superhero, period. And so you were always going to get another Batman. I kind of assumed this was going to be like a one-off type thing where it's like,
right,
Matt Reeves had this vision, Pattinson's gonna come in, do his thing, and that's it. After the movie ended, I do not think that's the case. I think we're at least getting another one, if not two more.
Also, let's not forget, we will be getting two other Batmans later this year in the Flash movie with Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck showing up to the Flashpoint story. So there'll be 3 different Batmans this year. Alas, I agree. There are heavy nods to the prospect of a sequel to this film, and it had a very successful opening weekend, so odds are good. And I welcome it. I don't care that's not connected to anything else, because what it is good, and that's enough.
Yep. Yeah, and I think what set the tone best for me is that Reeves really had a vision for how he wanted Gotham City to be in this movie. He really brought in this like 90s like cyberpunk type feel to it. And I think he not only beautifully shot New York City. I don't know if it was actually in New York City. I didn't look up if production was there, but I mean,
no, it was in London where they made this. But
they CGI'd in Madison Square Garden and called it Gotham Square Garden.
Yeah,
so
same font.
Yeah, what they're going for here. And I thought it was great. You have you start off with this this ode to comic books where it's like this voiceover from Pattinson, uh, basically like reading out of Batman's journal, and
Yeah.
you have the fucking Nirvana soundtrack playing underneath it, and you're just like, oh, this is sick. This is exactly what we're going for. You'd already seen a really grisly murder by the Riddler, but to this point, so you're kind of bought in, and Pattinson just plays such a different Bruce Wayne than we've ever seen. We don't get him a lot as Bruce Wayne. He's pretty much
Correct.
Batman the whole time, which I love that choice. Like it seems like it makes a lot of sense for the character who is this totally broken,
Mm.
very emotional and overwhelmed with grief person who is just trying to like exact vengeance, exactly what he says in his first line in the movie, his first line as Batman in the movie, um, on the world by bringing people to justice, whatever that means. And I think his toned down, quiet, emo Batman was just like such a beautiful and like smart take, and it made a ton of sense to me.
Yeah, totally. It's so fully realized because like you said, it makes complete sense for the film. It's the least Bruce Wayne we've ever gotten in a Batman movie, but also welcome. If you were going to keep making Batman movies, so at least do something different. We eschew the origin story. We do not see the Waynes murdered in Crime Alley. We also don't see Bruce become the Batman either. This is a year two story. And I think it's just really smart to incorporate, like you said, this broken, messed up Bruce who doesn't care about all the other stuff that Bruce Wayne would be up to. He's just Batman right now. That's his thing. So it makes sense that yeah, we're not going to really see him go to the galas and schmooze as Bruce
Right.
Wayne during the day because that's just not what this Bruce in year two of being the Batman would be doing. And yeah, I mean, I, Pattinson, big fan. He's been crushing it the last 5, 6 years, making great choices. To see him come back to franchise fare in the biggest possible way as the new Batman, and then have it be this kind of Batman feels very in line with what he's been doing the last 6 years. I think it's another great choice by him, and I really like the performance because it's exactly what Reeves was going for with this version of Batman.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think not only is it like right in Pattinson's wheelhouse for the kind of characters he's been playing, but it kind of allows him to almost kind of explore and kind of kick the franchise stigma that he started off his career with kind of like to the curb in a sense, because whereas the Twilight characters were so cartoonish and ridiculous, this is like a franchise that is like ultra grounded as much as a superhero movie
Yeah,
can be grounded.
no
And
powers.
yeah, and I think the way that Pattinson not only is like playing this grounded superhero, but one who like as a character is fully fleshed out in this movie to a point where it's like, yeah, everything he does makes total sense, including like his growth throughout the movie. And by the end, like where he kind of accepts what he has to be. I just thought it was like, oh, this is such a makes total sense for where he's at in his career, given the last 10 years post Twilight. Um, he's playing opposite Zoe Kravitz for a lot of the movie, who, dude, I mean, a Kimmy and then this, it's like she is just a fucking rocket. Like I don't know, man. She stole the movie for me. I just thought every scene she was in, she was the main thing to look at, and then everything else was kind of just wallpaper a lot of time.
Totally. Yeah, well, and like we said, like the production design, the way the movie looks really brings you in. But like once we're in the Iceberg Lounge, which looks fantastic, looks so great, great vision of the Iceberg Lounge, which in the past has been a much more cartoonish, you know, uh, hub for the Penguin. In this case, it's having it be like a fucking like house club, and then like you're like you see Zoe walk up as a waitress at the club, and you're like, holy shit, yeah, this is perfect. But like she just has such presence at all times. She always has. but now she's just getting these great parts too. Like the cat is out of the bag. It has been for some time. Zoe Kravitz is great, and obviously this is the best Catwoman we've got. No shots to Pfeiffer or Hathaway, but this is just the best version of the character.
Oh yeah.
And the motivations of Selena Kyle are completely fleshed out and developed throughout the course of this
Mhm.
film. Everything she does makes complete sense. On top of that, she has amazing chemistry with Pattinson, and
Unbelievable.
the sexual tension between the Batman and Catwoman is off the charts.
Yeah.
So
The
it's complete success having Catwoman in this, played by Zoe Kravitz.
Yeah, we're referring to that sexual tension, that scene where she's like looking for Annika's passport, and Batman comes up behind her, and then the guard comes in. He like pulls her around the corner, is like holding her like against him. People in my theater, I thought were about to like lose their mind. It's not only were like the people sitting next to me, these teenage girls who were there for Pattinson, but obviously also big Zoe Kravitz fans, and they were literally like falling out of their chair watching this scene. They just were like they couldn't believe it. Um, yeah, and throughout the movie, it's just there the whole time. I think what I really loved about this Selena Kyle is obviously can't match Bruce in terms of physical strength or just like weaponry, but her ability to like uh, emotionally understand him without actually knowing him. I mean, calling him out, "Oh, you're just a you're just a rich kid underneath that mask." If that's the way you're seeing the world, I just thought that made such a great like sidekick for Batman, and like in terms of the growth of Bruce throughout the movie, made total sense to have someone challenging him in that way, who also had a similar story as an orphan. And I mean, it really is like a story of three orphans, right? Because you also have Paul Dano as the Riddler, who is just completely playing a different version of who both of these characters could have become, looking for
Yeah,
that revenge instead of that vengeance. And I just thought the three orphan story made so much sense in this.
yeah,
Matt Reeves really thought that through well.
totally. And kudos to Warner Brothers for taking this pitch and letting him enact his vision and not meddling in this. He's had nothing but good things to say about the whole process. Uh, yeah, man. I mean, Dano. I mean, as soon as that got announced, I thought that was brilliant. And if you've watched Prisoners,
Yeah.
you probably understand where Dano's taking this because that's where he went
Mhm.
with this. But to Reeves' credit again, the conception of the Riddler this time around is not something like over the top and cartoony like Jim Carrey did. It's, I think, far scarier because it's a much more believable as a kind of radicalized person who can gain followers online with these very extreme views on society. And if you remember like the incel talk when Joker came out, well actually we got those characters shown to us in the Batman, funny enough. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think probably the first 90 minutes or so, when it's really hard noir, I just thought it was so captivating
Oh
as a
yeah.
film. Just literally, he really did it. He made a detective Batman movie, the world's greatest detective. We finally saw it. It was so cool. Like just watching Jeffrey Wright be like, "This mean anything to you?" And then Batman, like, "Yeah, I know the fucking riddle, bro." And just having to go
Yeah.
through that, and like, we get shown, we get to the Iceberg Lounge. We can see that cool vision tech that Batman
Mhm.
shares with for Catwoman, and then like then the cameos start coming up, right? Peter Sarsgaard as the DA,
Yep.
so good, so overqualified for that performance or
Yeah,
for that
basically
role, but
10
the
minutes in the
performance is
movie.
great. Yeah, and then of course we encounter the Penguin, played by an unrecognizable Colin Farrell. Later we get Carmine Falcone by John Turturro. Like it's just so lived in, so fully realized. But the detective part is what really grabbed me in the early going. I was just so thrilled with it.
Yeah, I thought the riddles and how quickly he could solve them were just like yeah, this is what Batman was in the comic books, just this great detective on top of being this martial artist and this superhero. I thought I loved that part too. I also really thought like and you said this before, the Riddler was quite menacing and scary throughout the movie. Not only like the duct taping the head of the mayor up, and then putting the DA or the commissioner of the police, putting the
Yes.
thing on his head where the rats ate his face, like the
Mm.
like super creepy, scary things. But the who done it of it all and like following along, I just thought it was a lot of fun, like you said, and you could even go to ratalada.com and like it will give you like a clue if you click on a certain thing. It's very cool that they like built that out. So yeah, I loved all that stuff, and also how like they thought they had figured it out. It leads to this amazing car chase of like who
Yes.
the rat with wings that
With
can't
wings.
fly or whatever.
Yes.
Um,
Am I the only one who knows there's an L and La?
Colin Farrell just going for it as the penguin, but awesome. But that car chase, dude, was
Yeah.
incredible. What one of my favorite parts of the movie for sure.
Right. Yeah. So much went into doing that practically. A lot of nods to like French Connection and like famous
Mhm.
like car chases of the '70s. Um, Greg Fraser was the director of photography for this film, and he had just shot Dune as well. I mean, the movie just looks so good, and there was such I think, a keen attention to like this version of Gotham and like really making it feel like a specific place. I was quite impressed with Colin Farrell. On in a sense, in a movie where you already have the Riddler and Catwoman, do we really need the Penguin? Is the Penguin just there for the HBO Max series that's being developed with Farrell? Who knows? But I actually kind of liked his figure as like a heavy for Falcone that then steps up into becoming the Penguin that we more uh, easily know. And Farrell, I think, just really kind of chewed on the scenery with like a New York accent. I think this definitely kind of washes away his nothing part in Fantastic Beasts 1. Like he was just in a franchise movie, lest we forget. But this is just he's really just having such a blast these days, just being like a character actor.
Yeah, no, I mean Farrell's great, and we just talked about him in Forgetting Yang,
After Yang,
but
yeah.
after Yang, Forgetting Yang also might not have been a bad title for that movie. But alas, yeah, I thought he was great. Really loved him in this. Also, Tutoro, like he just kind of shows up like an hour into the movie, and you're like, oh, this is John Turturro just being fucking awesome. Like he has such a
Right.
presence, and like as Falcone, just kind of like this, like he's there but not really there, but kind of overarching everything. Just like amazing. I thought he was great.
Right. Yeah, I love the scene where Bruce goes to him and
Mhm.
asks him what happened to his parents, and he like blames Maroni. And I immediately thought of The Dark Knight, the famous quote, "It must have been Maroni's men." But Falcone in this movie was like, "It must have been Maroni's men." Can't prove it,
Mhm.
but that's what I think. And like it totally convinces Bruce. Then he obviously we learn that no, it was most likely Falcone. At least that's what Alfred thinks. And it's like I love kind of all those fake outs, similar something else that's set up across a lot of the film. Selena, Falcone's her dad. They kind of make it seem like he also knows that, but he actually didn't know that the entire time. I really like that choice too. Um, and then at the end, when Batman goes to see the Riddler at Arkham, the way Riddler starts talking, Bruce Wayne starts getting Batman on edge. He's like, fuck, does he know my identity? Because he didn't know my identity before when he tried to
Right.
kill me at Wayne Manor. Does he know my identity now? And it's like a whole like 2 minutes before Batman's like, oh no, doesn't actually know my identity. But
Yeah.
before that, he's like glancing up at the security camera. It's like, fuck, am I blown? Is it all
Yeah.
over? And it's not. Like I really like how they kind of set up a lot of these like little fake outs throughout the film.
Yeah, no, I thought that was great, especially because before he goes to Arkham, it shows him like looking at Bruce on that like newspaper cover, the night the Waynes were murdered, and it has like a picture of like Bruce Wayne and the Waynes kind of all up there. So it's like kind of throwing you for a loop there. Man, you just talked about maybe one of my favorite scenes in the second half of the movie, which is um, Paul Dano as the Riddler at Arkham, finally getting his 5 minute monologue as
Mm,
the Riddler, and I just thought he crushed it. Like, throughout the whole movie, he has these moments where he's live streaming and being super creepy and weird. He FaceTimes with Bruce and the DA at one point in at the memorial service, and he's going for it the whole time. Like screaming at certain parts, going quiet at other parts. He's really creepy. But that scene at Arkham is just so like uh I don't know. It's literally like watching one of the serial killers on Mindhunter or something like that. And I just thought he was fantastic in that scene. Um, and just like you said, he kind of brings that vibe he brought in Prisoners the whole time, and it's pretty pretty creepy for sure. Um, so I know you really liked the first half of the movie. I wanted to ask you about the second half because I think the second half of the movie is much different. It's a lot more of like the action. You kind of,
Yeah.
like I said, you kind of get the showdown. Yeah, MSG with the Riddler's followers, kind of some of like QAnon type guys. How did you like the second half of the movie?
Yeah, well, I think the second half is like, weaker than the first half, quote unquote, but I still really enjoyed it because I just think the whole vision of the film still really works. Like before you know it, it's like, oh shit, the seawalls are crashing down and there's like
Mhm.
widespread catastrophic flooding in Gotham. And oh wait, now there's going to be a mass shooting in MSG because the followers are there. It's like things get real really quick, you
Yeah,
know, and it moves at a much faster pace than the first half of the film had been going. But I still didn't mind it because I think they earn it by having Batman like almost push the kill and then having Selena like show up at the last second and like saving him and stopping him, and
just
I
like
just
he
think it
stopped
all
her.
works. Yeah, I think it all works, and I really like seeing like Batman on the roof of the building as the National Guard's coming in, and like it's like clearly progressing the story to now Batman is a fully publicized figure in Gotham, and I think kind of sets up an interesting level of change for a future film. But just in general, like this movie, like makes no qualms about the fact that like Batman doesn't even know if he's making a difference throughout the whole thing in terms
Right.
of Gotham's crime and like quality of life and stuff and corruption. And at the end, he's like realizing that he can still make a difference to individuals, even if like the system still like keeps things down. Like I think it all still kind of worked and fit with that overall vision that the movie was setting you up with. So I still liked it.
Yeah, I like the second half. Probably not as much as the first half, but I agree. I think where Bruce ends up kind of being that symbol of hope for the city, and that character growth makes a lot of sense. I do like that they set up some sort of potential for the Joker, played by Barry Keoghan,
Yeah.
in at Arkham with the Riddler. I don't know if we'll necessarily see him in the next one. I almost think they might be like setting that up, and eventually like it'll be some big Arkham escape type thing. And I don't know, I whatever, because setting up Arkham as being Bruce's mom's maiden name. Obviously, I think there's going to be something where he has to go to Arkham Asylum at some point.
Mm,
So
right. Well, if we remember before the Batman came out, they announced a Gotham Police Department series for HBO Max, and then later announced a Penguin HBO Max series as well with Colin Farrell coming back. We've since learned just recently that Matt Reeves confirmed that the Gotham PD show is not happening anymore. There were creative differences. We knew there had been like, showrunners dropping out and stuff. They're not making that. However, it seems to have now morphed into an Arkham Asylum type HBO Max series. So interesting. I'm sure we'll hear more about that, but it also makes sense because that's kind of what WB's been doing. They've been blowing up HBO Max with more spin-off series. You got the Bennett Gesserit Dune spin-off coming to HBO Max as well. All these DC series they've been doing. So kind of fits with what they've been doing. But I can't wait for either of those shows just because this world is so fully fleshed out and developed that just to get back uh anytime, let
yeah,
alone for the next movie. Sounds great.
a couple of quick questions I wanted to ask you. Um, Andy Serkis, Jeffrey Wright. How'd you feel about their performances?
Yeah, good. You don't get a ton of Andy Circus as Alfred, probably the least served of the big cast here. But I enjoyed him. It was definitely a committed performance. And I like Jeffrey Wright as Gordon as well. I think it's cool to see a Gordon who's not fully at the top as commissioner just yet, and is almost like going rogue with association with Batman. But even like when I loved like seeing like Gordon and Batman walk through the the police line around all these cops and enter the crime scene, like seeing all that stuff and seeing like Gordon like hold it, keep everyone at bay. Uh, I thought it was really great. But you also don't get a ton of Gordon either. Like it's almost
Yeah.
more just like the detective stuff early on. But I think still good enough.
Yeah, I really liked Jeffrey Wright in that role, and I feel like he got a little bit more to do than he usually does. A little more like action, like shootout scenes. I
Right.
loved the scene where the cops want to unmask him, and he has to like basically get Batman out of the police precinct. I just thought that was an electric
Yeah.
escape scene. Um, and ending in like a pretty brutal crash where like Batman's just like fine after he almost like breaks his leg, which I thought was funny. Um, going back to Alfred though, I gotta say, it's a pretty tough look when the first minute that Alfred wakes up from basically a coma. The first thing that Bruce says to him, Alfred smiles at him, and Bruce goes, "You lied to me." Like, like just it's a tough first thing to hear when you get out of
Mm.
a medically caused coma. I don't know,
Yeah.
pretty funny.
But it makes sense for this version of Bruce.
True, yeah,
Yeah. One
selfish
track
and
mind.
yeah, but oh man, I like actually started laughing in the theater because this was like, damn, like let the guy have like 2 minutes where he's like, why the fuck am I here? I'm not dead. Like what the hell? Um, yeah, but I enjoyed both their performances. I think this is definitely set up for a fun trilogy. Um, if that's what it comes to, at least one other movie. Uh, do you feel like this is your favorite Batman now?
No, I would say my favorite's still The Dark Knight, but I think this is my second favorite Batman movie. I'd probably have this over Batman Returns and Batman Begins. And there's been a lot of Batman movies, so to make the second or third best Batman movie is still quite the accomplishment, I'd say.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. It's probably third behind Begins for me. Just really love that Nolan trilogy. Where does uh the Riddler from this movie rank in terms of the villains for you? Obviously, it's not Ledger, but second.
No, yeah, it's a good one. I mean, there's been a lot of great villains. You got Nicholson Joker, DeVito Penguin. Hmm, it's tough. Yeah, though. I mean, I think he's up there in the second tier, obviously behind Heath. Yeah, I mean, Bane is Bane is almost overrated. I think, given what we get in Dark Knight Rises, even if people like the performance from Hardy and like the energy and all that. And I'm not as high on Ra's al Ghul and Batman Begins as other people are, but I think this is up there. This was done really well, and
Yeah,
I'm definitely not opposed to seeing more Penguin as well because I think Colin Farrell has potential to do really great as a primary antagonist as well.
yeah, I agree with you on both points. I would probably put this Riddler as the second favorite villain for me. I'd say. And I have to imagine if you have the Dark Knight up there at number one in your Batman rankings, then you probably also have the um, God, why can't I remember Christian Bale Batman as your
Yeah,
favorite.
yeah. I mean, Christian Bale for sure is definitely the best Bruce aspect of Batman. Obviously, he's also like the most to do as Bruce. But I think overall, yeah, I'd probably still go with Bale. But like for this specific vision of Batman, I mean, it's completely nailed by
Yeah,
Pattinson and delivered on by Reeves. So that one's always kind of interesting to compare though, because obviously they're all so different tonally, whether it's Adam West, Keaton, Bale, or Rob, let alone
yep.
the two Schumacher ones. And then again, you get a lot of the hardcore DC people really enjoyed Affleck. So I think in general, we've largely done really well with casting Batman to this point.
Yeah. I could very much see this vision of Batman being like a prequel to the uh Affleck Batman, just kind of in terms of the like grizzled, like toned
Right.
downness. But yeah, I don't know. It's definitely up there. It might be it's probably second for me in terms of favorite Batmans. I mean, they like you said, they're all so different, so it's kind of hard to totally compare. But I don't think Bale could have played this, but I do think Pattinson could have played Bale. Probably not as
Oh,
well, but
yeah. I
you
mean,
know,
watch Pattinson in Tenet. You know he could have
right?
done
Yeah.
Bale Batman. We already know
Oh,
this.
yeah. Great point. Great point. Any last thoughts on the movie? Anything else you want to touch on?
Glad to see it was very successful at the opening weekend. 134 million domestic, which is actually higher than the total gross of any WB movie in 2021. Obviously, the HBO Max day and date stuff is now gone in 2022. Um, so I'm hoping this has a nice, successful run. Like, obviously not as big as Spider Man, but still hoping it does really well because I would really welcome that sequel.